So we're going to talk about Black Panther today in a few different ways, and I'm thinking about making this a two-parter because there's so much involved in it, and just talking about the Black Panthers, where I grew up. Um, I mean that would take a whole session. Okay, yes, you're going to remind a friend. Yeah, okay, do that, do that. All right. Um, so I was talking to I'm getting over pneumonia, and I have a friend that's been checking on me, and you know I think he thinks that he's annoying me, but he's not. I just appreciate the camaraderie. So I told him I was going to the doctor, but I got the appointments mixed up. I thought it was going on one Friday, and then I thought it was the following Friday, but it actually was a Wednesday. Anyway, I went to the doctor, and he told me that I had beat pneumonia. He said, but you're still going to feel weak for a few weeks. So I thought, wow, that sucks. And I sent it to my friend, and I had just found this picture. I had been looking for the first time I saw the Black Panther in Marvel Comics. And so I sent it to him, and I said, "Hey, I know this seems weird, and I'm going to send you this picture." And then he sent me back like his whole Black Panther comic book collection. It was like, how many comics were in that picture, Sebastian? You're muted. You need to take yourself off mute.
Um, there were probably about 12 or 13
Yeah,
in
it
that
it,
selection. Yeah.
it seemed like it was 40.
Well,
Yeah,
it probably was. I do have some double and triple copies of it, but there were, yeah, 12 or 13. But I've got
yeah,
duplicates and triplets, yeah, in there. So, yeah.
yeah. You're right, Kitty. I should have called you. Um, so I want to just start out. I don't know. Are you prepared to come in, Tony? Are you?
Uh, we did something in my resizing. Go ahead and just, yeah, just go ahead and get started,
Oh, okay. All right.
I'll let you know when I'm good to go.
All right. All right. Just far away. I'm glad you all could join us. Um, people just said, I had one friend that said, "Stay away from your iPad. Put that iPad down." This is for my recovery. So I'm going to talk about the Black Panther phenomenon today, and this is how I actually started finding out about it. I'm talking in the late '60s, okay, and actually the character Black Panther started in 1966. So this one here, this one that says 12 cents, and it's the Fantastic Four is kind of cut off. This is probably that first comic that I saw that had the Black Panther in it. Now, Keely mentioned the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey. This is from the Philosophies and Opinions of Marcus Messiah Garvey. He says, "I have a vision of the future, and I see before me a picture of a redeemed Africa with her dotted cities, with her beautiful civilizations, with her millions of happy children going to and fro. Why should I lose hope? Why should I give up and take a back seat in this age of progress? Remember that you are men that God created you lords of this creation. Lift yourselves up, men. Take yourselves out of the mire and hit your hopes to the stars. Yes, raise as high as the very stars themselves. Let no man pull you down. Let no man destroy your ambition, because man is but your companion, your equal. Man is your brother. He is not your Lord. He is not your sovereign master. And this is from the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey. I saw this. This came up on my feed today. Has it been that long? Trayvon Martin. This is from attorney Ben Crump's Instagram account. Trayvon Martin would have been 30 today. And when I said that to Doris, she said, you know, this is why Kaba identified with Trayvon Martin, because they were the same age. So, something to think about. Trayvon Martin. This killer is still at large. So when I first heard of Black Panther, I was in the 4th grade. It was in a Fantastic Four comic book. It was, I want to correct that. It was either in a Fantastic Four or an Avengers comic book. And he was a Black studies teacher in what appeared to be a high school. He was a Black superhero. Before Black Panther, there were no Black superheroes. Now, there might be somebody that knows more than I do about this, but for me, when I was reading around, 10 years old, uh, he was the only Black superhero that I knew about. And so this is what I found. This here on the left, this is what I sent to Brother Sebastian. And here is the Black Panther. He is a Black studies teacher. He's in a, they put ghetto high school. We would say inner city high school. And he's telling him about he's telling him about Wakanda. And then one of the kids, they're laughing, and he says, just one, teach. Which man expect to spook with that thing? Fat Albert? Where did he come from with that rig anyhow? And that stuck with me. And as you read on, you find out, okay, it's a technologically advanced African civilization, and he has all these superpowers. He ends up joining the Avengers. Years later, fast forward, I found I was just walking along, minding my own business, and I looked down on a newsstand, and there was this part 1 of a 4-part issue limited series on the Black Panther. And here you see the Black Panther and with previous Black Panthers. And each Black Panther receives the Panther spirit. And he had lost the Panther spirit. The Panther spirit felt like he wasn't revolutionary enough. And so he ended up having to battle with the Panther spirit. And then the next episode in the series, the next issue, he's fighting the supremacists. And keep in mind, this was 1988, so this was still kind of during the South African apartheid period, which, that's coming back now. I don't know if you've been keeping up with the news. Anyway, it was a 4-part series, and I had been looking for these things and just came up on them recently. So this was me, and I think maybe some of you too. Brothers, you ever do this when you're a little kid? Put a put a a blanket around you. You look in the mirror and you see Christopher Reeves or whatever.
I never. It must be something wrong with me. I did the thing with the towel, but I never saw a white man whenever I did it. I honestly did not.
Well, that's good for you. Well, this was in
Guilty.
Black Scholar uh, magazine. It was an advertisement, and it says, "What's wrong with this picture? A child dreams of being the latest superhero. What could be wrong with that? Plenty if the child is black and can't even imagine a hero the same color he or she is. It's like this: children learn by what they see, and if it weren't for black media, a black child wouldn't see the world as it really is, with black men and women doing positive things besides basketball and singing songs. What can you do to make our kids have self pride? Decide which media shows them blacks as they really are." And, and it goes on. But this, you know, what's wrong with this picture? This is the reality. Not all of us are as had the high self esteem as Brother Robert did. But we need to ask ourselves what's wrong with that picture. And so that was from the Black Owned Communications Alliance, was formed and fizzled in the early 80s. It must be remembered for the powerful Superman consumer ad created then by G.P. Martin and Associates in an effort to speak to consumers and the industry about the lack of positive images in the black media. Yes, go ahead, Kitty.
Thank you. That picture in your narrative reminded me that, again, you said that media outlet opened and closed in the 1980s.
Yes.
Well, here we are now, 45 years later.
Yes.
And I am one of the last holdouts for Pan-African internet-based Black-owned radio stations. I helped start at least 13 of them. And as far as I can remember, there are only 2 of us left. And at the pace that I am on with LIB Radio, which is our 23rd year, which makes us the oldest of them all, we can't continue at this rate. So we have to ask the question. Again, the boy looked in the mirror and he saw a white superhero staring back at him. Am I correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to draw an analogy between that and us as African people, labeling ourselves as Pan-African, looking to the mirror of white media domination for them to tell us our story. I was going to call you off the air and ask your opinion about the story of M23 in the Eastern Congo. Maybe this is not the time to address that because it's a complex situation.
You know what? That is very complex, and maybe we should do a Black Knowledge Matter just on that alone.
Yeah, because I did that report today, and I can guarantee you there is no Western media that will tell the true story that M23 crisis you're seeing as headline news on a daily basis was deliberately created at the Berlin Conference. And the second point about that Berlin Conference, 1884-85, let me ask you this, my wonderfully well-informed brother. What was the original name of that Berlin Conference?
I know it was the Berlin. All I know is the Berlin. And actually, Kitty, we're going to get to that.
It was, just real quickly, it was called the Congo Conference. That's all I have to say.
All right. Thank you. We're gonna get to that, Kitty, and thank you for bringing that up. Now, Sunman was a toy my sons played with. So is Ron Kaba back in the day, and they people were wearing the fade in the 90s, and this was their toy, Sunman. We also, as a family, watched John Stewart, who played the Black Green Lantern. Okay, I'm going to pause now for myself and have my friend, uh, brother Sebastian, to come in and share his collection. Go
Let's
ahead.
see, what do we have here? Are we up?
Yes, yeah, we can see it.
You can see it. Okay. Piggybacking off of that conversation we had, he shared that with me in a text, his stuff. And his guy was I'm trying to remember the author of Black Panther in your versions, but
Stanley.
Stanley, I'm not a comic book reader, first of all. This didn't come to me until later in life, and I was into black art. And I come across this comic store, and I went in and I said, you know, it would be good to have some black superhero in my collection, you know, books and art and stuff. So I went to the Black Panther, and this was the first few pieces that I got. And this was by a guy, I think it was Christopher Priest, his versions of a series of the Black Panther. And then I went and these were the next ones that I ended up showing him. And this was through Reginald Hudlin. Reginald Hudlin, man, this guy has done a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff. And going and checking it with Reginald Hudlin, he and his brother Warrington, they were the Hudlin brothers, and they were I mean, he's produced, written, directed, but they did House Party. After which they did Boomerang. They were involved in Boomerang. He was also involved in what was it called? Bebe's Kids. You know, the Robin Harris cartoon thing. The Boondocks. He helped with was it Marshall, and that was the one that Chadwick Boseman played in doing Thurgood Marshall. So he was actually the president of BET for 3 years. I think it was like from 2005 to 2005 to 2008. So he's been around for quite a while doing some great stuff. So you might want to check him. Another one I would suggest if you haven't seen it was The Black Godfather, the Clarence Avant docu, and he was Redlin. I'm sorry, Hudlin was part of getting that together. But another thing with him is that he was married to a woman, Cressida, and his lawyer at the time was a familiar name, and now was it Doug Emhoff? And his wife Cressida was the one who coordinated the blind date with Doug Emhoff and Kamala Harris. So, you know, old Reginald Hudlin's been around there for a moment. But another part that me and Minister were speaking, I think it was prior to that when we were talking about Huey Newton. Wasn't that prior to?
Yes.
Yes. And I was expressing to him, you know, he was talking about growing up in the Bay Area, and I told him my dealing with Huey was I used to work for the Department of Corrections and Transportation. I had transported Huey from Alameda County back to San Quentin, probably not too not too much before he was released on a violation, and then he was assassinated on the streets of Oakland. But it led me to also, I pull up some pictures of the Black Panther. You know, I mean, from comics to with the Black Panthers, and I'm quite sure Minister will get into some of this other stuff here. But then you have, you know, and you might know these two people, and Angela Davis and Kwame Ture, formerly known as Stokely Carmichael. And I happened to meet her when she was giving a speech in Sacramento at Sac State. some years back. And here's a picture of who is this here? I think it's Chico's to the left there. There's Kwame right there with his fist balled up. There's H. Rap. And who is this right here to the right there? And there's another one of our brothers who's done our Husia, Malana Karenga. This is at Sac State. When
wow, what year was that? What
this
year?
is in, I want to say 68, 1968. This is some kids riding right in front of the headquarters of the Black Panther.
Here in Sacramento?
No. This is in Oakland.
Okay.
And there's that iconic picture of Huey with Brother Seal out front there. And I thought this right here would bring, because I think that we spoke and you mentioned this place to me, the Infirmary Recreation Center, IMHO.
Infirmary Park is where the
Infirmary Park
would
right.
be, and the community dubbed it Bobby Hutton Park because Bobby Hutton was a Black Panther who, when the Black Panther headquarters was surrounded by the police, he came out with his shirt off and his hands up, and the police shot him anyway.
That's right.
And he was only 16. Yeah.
That's right. Wow. And there's another shot of that same location.
Yes.
And this guy right here in the center, that is Albert Big Man Howard.
Yes.
I had the pleasure of meeting him. It would have been, they had a Black Panther reunion here in Sacramento at the Underground Books, and that is a place that Kevin Johnson owns that his mother basically operated.
She just passed.
She just transitioned. You're right here, December 23rd of 2024. And this is one of Big Man's saying here. It does not matter what you did in the past. It's what you do today that matters. Be of service to your people. And that's exactly what these guys stood for.
Amen Ra. Thank you. Thank you.
Amen Ra.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you. All righty.
All right. All right. Thank you. All right. Thandiwe. Got Thandiwe. We got Tony Odom. We're getting all the Soul Train gang. Okay. So I'm sorry, I was having a Don Cornelius flashback. All right. So getting back to so these are the superheroes that my kids saw. Now there is now John Jackson asked me about the Black Sands. How is it? Black Sands Entertainment? Is that right, John? Don't do anything dangerous.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so I don't want to click on this, but there's a whole Black comic entertainment group that has comics for Black people. And I forgot to say this at the beginning, but comics is what helped me to want to read and enjoy reading. So, I mean, everybody starts in one way or another, but it was comics for me that helped me appreciate reading. Now I want to go, this is Credo Mutwa. Credo Mutwa is a Zulu Sangoma, a traditional healer from South Africa. He is known as an author of books on a series mixing traditional Zulu folklore and extraterrestrial encounters and his own personal encounters. Okay, so I want to say at the outset, you know, his teachings are on the fringe. He's passed away, but when I put this together at first, he was living with his wife, Virginia, in Karuma, in South Africa, where they ran a hospice clinic. Credo calls himself a Sanyusi, a type of Zulu diviner or Sangoma. A Sangoma is a traditional medicine practitioner or shaman of South Africa. Sangomas communicate with the ancestors, work with plant medicine, herbalism, and use the power of prayer for healing. And that's another picture of Credo Mutwa. Credo Mutwa makes a statement about the copper city underneath Mount Kilimanjaro. So this is the story he tells. He says, before human beings were created on this planet, there had existed a very wise race of people known as the Imani Ukala. These people had come from the constellation known to white people as Orion, and they had inhabited our earth for thousands and thousands of years. And before they had left our earth to return once more to the sacred spider constellation, they made a great evacuation under the earth beneath the Razuri Mountains, the mountains of the moon. Deep in the bowels of Mother Earth, the Imani Ukala built a city of copper buildings, a city with a wall of silver all around it, a city built around the huge mountain of pure crystal. So this is the area that he's talking about. And he's talking about under Kilimanjaro. This is the Razuri mountain range is the source of the Nile. Mount Kilimanjaro, this is how it looks in various modes. There's also Mount Kenya, and there's a whole mountain range between Tanzania and Kenya. Mount Kilimanjaro, as seen from space. Now this is Rwanda's location. Very close, very similar. Reality and fantasy, Rwanda area and the mountain range. So on our left here is Wakanda, and on our right is the Razuri mountain range. Credo Mutwa continues, this old woman told me that her grandmother had told her this story while she was still a virgin of some 15 years or so, undergoing initiation into the mysteries and the culture of the Bahutu people. Tibetans come looking for the sacred mountain. The old woman went on to tell me that many generations ago, there came to the land of the Bahutu a group of little yellow-skinned men who wore colorful robes and strange, brightly colored hats. These men, she said, had come in search of the great city of knowledge, which they had heard many, many years ago stands in the earth under the mountains of the moon, the Razuri Mountains. The mountain of knowledge, the mountain from which all knowledge on earth comes, and a mountain to which all knowledge on earth ultimately returns. They're talking about Mount Kilimanjaro. Now, Wakanda, if you research, the name Wakanda is a Native American Sioux origin. The meaning of Wakanda is inner magical power. So here's a picture of Wakanda. All right, Keity, we need to get on this. We need to get this a skyline going.
Well, I've done a lot of work on this for 3 years. Actually, since February, it'll be 7 years now since the movie came out. That was when I started working on this. I've done extensive reports on this. And when you talked about Credo Mutwa being a little eccentric, that's putting it very mildly. I have a lot of friends and associates across South Africa, and I've asked them about Credo Mutwa, and they have almost universally told me that his credibility comes from this questionable white guy from UK called, what's his name? David Icke. Yes. Are you familiar with David Icke? I call him David Yucky.
Yeah, I've read his book, but I find it interesting. You know, I have heard both positives and negatives, and so what I did say was that Credo Mutwa, some of the things that he says is on the fringe. Okay,
that's putting it mildly.
And
I then asked the question: are we allowed to validate each other as African people, or should we just say, well, that person, that's their imagination, that's their belief, and just allow that to stand as teachings to our community? Or should we all be held accountable to certain standards of credibility?
I think now one of the tenets at WOSE is the 10 virtues.
Correct.
And the last two are cultivate the ability to distinguish right from wrong, and cultivate the ability to tell the real from the unreal. I'm just comparing and contrasting his story and what we are taught in this fictional version of Wakanda. So Wakanda, a supernatural force similar to mana, believed by the Sioux to pervade animate to pervade animate and inanimate objects in varying degrees, sometimes giving them extraordinary powers. There's another version of Wakanda. I hope this isn't a private message that somebody's sending me. Anyone on this Zoom, send me a text or call 323-346352. Let me know you were on the Zoom, okay? So that's from Sister Rashida. I don't know if she had to leave. Anyway, Wakanda, and usually assume the cause of extraordinary happenings. So here again is another picture of Wakanda. So there's similarities between Wakanda and other African societies, ancient and modern. The cross-hand stance displayed millennia ago in Kemet. So you see this in Kemet, and here is the Black Panther, our late brother, doing the cross-hand stance. And the Senrose Ret, 12th dynastic period, was one of the greatest military commanders in Kemetic history. He sent warships and troops to every corner of the world and stretched his kingdom farther than anyone had ever seen. He also resembles Dr. Obinga to me. Anybody else see that?
Yeah, the nose and the lips are a spot on the the cheeks are a little bit off, but yeah, they are definitely same tribe, and I would give them a. And I'm a physical anthropologist, so that's where I'm going. Yeah, that's real close.
Thank you, Robert. So I, I, so he's doing the cross hand stance, and then this stance is also done in Mali, and this god of self is called Pharaoh in the Mende culture of Mali, and then Asar in the Kushite Kemetic culture. Both of these Black African divinities represent the manifestation of the God within. So that stance is important. They included that in the movie. And here I am. I happen to be at the Whitechapel of Sin Roseret, and I also went to. It's called the Red Pyramid, but it's a pyramid by also by Sin Roseret, and people go in here to feel the vibration, and so that's what I'm doing in this posture. I'm feeling the vibration within the pyramid. And then we have ancient and modern leopard symbolism. Panther actually means leopard, jaguar, those spotted big cats. And a black panther is just a panther with all the stripes connected. So, Kemetic priest with leopard skin, and then you see modern day brothers rocking the leopard skin. So this was very important in Kemetic, Cometian symbolism, and also in today. I didn't include that in this presentation, but Professor Menu Ampim has a whole thing on the importance and the significance of the leopard skin in African culture. And now I found this very interesting, and whoops, let me go back. John was saying that he didn't know this, but and when I was in an African Studies class in 1977, Dr. Philip McGee's class, he sometimes talked about the leopard men in Africa, and so the leopard men in Africa defended Africa from colonizers, and this is where Stan Lee and Marvel got their story of the Black Panther based upon the leopard men, South Africa. Let me pause here. I've said a lot. Let me give people time to weigh in. What's been presented? Anything you want to say? I'll give you some time.
I have a question or make a statement real quick.
Uh-huh.
You know, when I did the thing in Atlanta, we did a thing on Afrofuturism, and we were talking about the things that they had. And they have vibranium, and there is a rare earth element that's only found in both Haiti and in Africa that everybody needs. Coltan is one, and vibranium is not gold, but there are things that we need that are only found on the African continent or places where people of color exist. I was just wondering, anybody else think of what metals? Because people work in symbolism when they do fiction, and so does anybody else have an idea about what it could have been trying to imply vibranium was?
Well, it was a rare metal. It was very strong. It enabled their civilization to be powered by it. Um, and I know again, Credo Mutwa is talking about something that was on the fringe. You know, I acknowledge that, but one of the things that he said was that this city underneath the Missouri mountain range, the city underneath Mount Kilimanjaro, was powered by a crystal, and we use quartz crystal in a lot of our technology today. And I believe personally that we've only scratched the surface on quartz. And he also said copper. We use copper a lot, and he said silver. Uh, there are so many minerals in Africa, and actually, we're going to get to that as we move on. So I don't see people jumping up and down and say, "Hey, Emma, let me talk." So I'm gonna keep on going. So uh, please hold tight. So yeah, Stan Lee got the idea for the Black Panther character by the leopard men in Africa, and here they are again. These two were captured by the Belgian authorities and sentenced to death, and they were members of the Leopard Men Society. Leopards are in a lot of iconology in African motifs.
Oh yeah.
In Benin, the leopard represented the Oba. The Oba is the king. So, like when you hear like Oba Tashaka, his name means king. The Oba, or divine king of the Benin people, the Oba was the symbol of the Oba's, excuse me, the leopard was the symbol of the Oba's power, authority, spiritual authority, and was often considered to be his alter ego, kind of like in that Black Panther story, that 4-part series. The Oba was so associated with the leopard that he sometimes called the leopard he was sometimes called the leopard of the civilized world. So again, leopard is very important. Me and Ra went to I think it's going on right now. This is in Tucson, Arizona. There was a crystal fair citywide. It's like a month wide. And in addition to the crystals, we saw African exhibits, and sure enough, there were leopards there. I wish I could have bought one, but it'd been hard bringing it back on the plane. All right.
Um, I
Yes.
don't want to. I want to say too much, but if you need one, I know we can get. So
Okay. All right. We'll take that offline. And here, the Per-Ah Tut, uh, usually called King Tut, he's riding on a Black Panther. Here he.
Can I interject something?
Go ahead.
You remember earlier you talked about the Ethiopians
Yes.
and they did the same thing. So when I was taking art history class at Georgia State, they were talking about what was the meaning behind the pharaoh on top of the lion. It is the God, the man becoming God, and him riding his animal self,
Yeah.
controlling his
Yes.
animal self. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Very good. I'm glad that you pointed that out. Very, very excellent. So here, among King Tut's treasures were these Black Panther and leopard motifs. Now, Dr. Ben used to say this. He said one of the names for Jesus was Yeshua Ben Pindera, or son of the Panther. So that was a name for Jesus. Even Jesus was the Black Panther, and so there's a lot of motifs relating to him as well. This is, I believe, from the catacombs of Domelita. This one on the right. This is an old picture of Yeshua, which would later become Jesus, and he looks like somebody that we need to talk about in African History Month. All right, the Church of Christ, the Trinity United Church of Christ in Chicago had a Black Panther study guide. And I just want to show this briefly, but there's a Black Panther study guide that they put out when the movie came out. A lot of good things about our history and culture. I thought that was pretty cool. All right, let's get out of here. So here's the Black Panther. That was the poster for it. Ryan Coogler is from Oakland. I think if Mother Thornton were here, I think he was going to the Church of Good Shepherd there on over there by Children's Hospital in Oakland. He was going to my mother's church. So this is the director, the writer, costume designer. And BET even had a Black Panther cartoon. And I think this came out before the movie. This cartoon was out before the movie. Vibranium. I mentioned that. Vibranium. Vibranium, found in Wakanda, absorbs sound, energy waves, and other vibrations, including kinetic energy. Absorbing sound waves, vibrations, kinetic energy makes this metal stronger. It was discovered by the Wakandan ancestors. So that's what's told in the story of the Black Panther. To protect this resource, they concealed their country from the outside world. T'Challa funded his country's education by occasionally selling off minuscule qualities of the metal. As a result, Wakanda is one of the world's most technologically advanced nations.
I'd like to interject that Captain America's shield
Yes.
was made from vibranium, according to the comic book.
Yes. So, it's a lot of African things that are in these stories, but they're kind of, undercover. So here's I got this meme years ago, and I thought it was applicable to today's presentation, this evening's presentation, from science fiction to practical application. So many of us grew up watching Star Trek, and here, Kirk would take out his communicator, and then in '73 we had the flip phone. And then they came out with another Star Trek series, and there's Captain Picard. He's looking at his iPad, and here it came out in 2010, and I really got into Avery Brooks' character. What was the show? What was the Star Trek?
Deep Space Nine.
Space Nine, and they were using this kind of communicator, and then it came out. So they were using this on the TV in 1998, then it actually came out in 2013. Somebody put something in the chat. Let me check. It's time for black men alive and well. Okay. See ya. John had to go. So thanks, John, for coming. Now, vibranium is, as far as we know, is fictional, but there's something called coltan. It's a combination of tin, tungsten, and tantalum. More than 80% of the world's rare mineral known as coltan is in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, one of the poorest countries, one of the world's poorest countries. Coltan is a vital component in cell phones, circuit boards, and other technological products such as computers and game consoles. Found this. Go
I'd
ahead.
like to interject something. You know, you said one of the poorest countries. I think that Africa is not poor. We are mineral rich. We are actually intellectually rich as well. What we suffer from is bad leadership. And so when we say poor, we have to define what that means. And it is the product of the West to describe people by their gross national product while they're exploiting someone. So, I mean, if you're draining the blood from somebody and you tell somebody they're anemic, no, they have a parasite. I'm done.
Well, you know, of course, that is correct. But what I mean by that is the people are poor. The people are poor in the Congo, and this is a mineral that is essential for everything that we're using electronically. And so what we need to focus on is this is backwards. So I found this article from coltan to vibranium, how Marvel's Black Panther mirrors real life issues in Africa today by Tom Bacon. The conflict mineral coltan is a dull metallic core ore found in the Congo. When refined, it becomes a metal called tantalum, a heat-resistant powder that can hold high electric charge. It's a vital component to modern capacitors and is used in almost all laptops, cell phones, and pagers. Do they still have pagers?
Yeah, they do because the Israelis used them to blow up Palestinians about a couple of weeks ago. Yes, they do still have paid.
Thank you for that. So Congo's history is filled with atrocities. There's this book that came out a few years ago. It's called King Leopold's Ghost. So people talk about Hitler. He killed 10 million Europeans. But really, our Hitler was named Leopold. He killed 15 million Africans in the Congo. We're only taught about Hitler, and so in the discussions about Hitler, we should bring up King Leopold.
There's a
You know,
book out.
I was in Carol's bookstore. Carol's bookstore, for those of you in the Bay Area, was a bookstore like Marcus Bookstore. And I was in a bookstore. This is when she was over there on Freeport Boulevard, and it was just me and her. And she said, "Mo, have you heard about Mark Twain's book King Leopold's Soliloquy?" And I said, "No." And so she pulled that book out, and it turns out, okay, you know, we're always taught about the other book that Mark Twain wrote, but we're never told about King Leopold's soliloquy. he wrote about what was going on in the Congo. And Brother Keaty had asked us a question earlier about the Berlin Conference, and he said originally it was the Congo Conference. So this is Africa after the Berlin and Belgian Conference. I wasn't aware of the Congo, of it being called Congo. I was only aware of the Berlin and Belgian Conference. So what happened after the Berlin Conference? The British took this part, the French took this part, the Portuguese took this part, the Spanish took this part, the Germans took this part, the Belgians took this part, the Italians took this part, and Ethiopia was the only place that remained independent. And they almost lost it to Italy. Now we have all these corporate entanglements in Africa. Not much has changed. The motherland by natural resources. This is just a few. Cotton, uranium, gold, diamonds, crude oil, coffee, tea, petroleum products, cocoa beans. Now, Sheikh Anta Diop wrote this book, The Economic and Cultural Basis for a Federal State, Black Africa, The Economic and Cultural Basis of a Cultural State. And in that, he put a compendium of things that we could use as Africans to drive our own energy. He points out there's hydraulic, there's solar, there's atomic, there's thermonuclear, there's wind, thermal energy of the seas. Boy, Diop was heavy. Tidal energy, global heat, volcanic thermal energy, geothermal energy. All of those things are in Africa, and with the right technology, with the right people, we could power our own selves. Again, I said the Congo's istory. That's a Rasta term. Instead of saying his story, they say istory. Is filled with atrocity. Hands were cut off if not enough rubber was collected. This is in the book King Leopold's Ghosts. So if people didn't collect enough, so first they started with rubber. I see somebody put something in the chat. Let's see. It wasn't obvious at his time, but energy conservation is a critical strategy too. That's right, Minister. So here, look, and they used us to punish each other. There was a father sitting down looking at the severed hands of his children. The same thing happened years later if not enough copper was collected. People got their hands cut off. This is why African history must be stopped, because it would show us what was done to us, how we've overcome, how we're still struggling to overcome. Patrice Lumumba, we talked about leaders. He was a great leader, one of the early leaders of an independent African state, Patrice Lumumba. He was overthrown with the aid of the CIA and colonial powers. Yes, Kitty, go ahead.
I did report on that today. Two things I would alert people to. Number one, the man who orchestrated the assassination of Patrice Lumumba was the same man that Colin Powell called my mentor and my best friend, Frank Carlucci. And second point is, in the aftermath of the overthrow of Patrice Lumumba, there was a rebellion that took place in the Congo that was based upon the very overthrow of Patrice Lumumba. His supporters, through what is called the Simba Rebellion. There's a wonderful documentary about 40 minutes long, available on YouTube, on the Simba Rebellion. It identifies these people who rebelled, and they actually dispatched their enemies at the monument to Patrice Lumumba. And so it's a very important story, and we have to understand, in putting down the Simba Rebellion, the United States flew in, I think, something like 30 C-130 airplanes to carry in Belgian paratroopers, as well as weapons and supplies to suppress this rebellion. At the end of the Simba Rebellion, Joseph Mobutu Sese Seko then takes power in the Congo, a dictator supported by the United States for over 20 years. A very important story. We should dig to the bottom of this story. There's a lot to learn. And the last point is that among the chief supporters in the Simba Rebellion are the very same people who today the international media castigates as M23. I'm telling the truth.
All right. We're going to come back to that, Kitty. Not today, but we're going to come back to that. So here, this is a very tragic story about what happened to Patrice Lumumba. The U.S., Britain, France, Belgium, they all took part in the assassination of great African leaders. And what was done to him is so heinous that I'm not even going to mention it now, but many of you know it. And if you do know it, don't say it, because it makes me sick. And now, mining for coltan today. It's happening now. We're doing this. This is how you are able to run your computer, your cell phone. So don't take it for granted using this technology. Look at these people. Even children are used. Soldiers, see, we do it to each other. Soldiers maintain the workforce. Coltan. Do you know smartphones will not work without this African mineral? The conflict mineral. Coltan is a dull. We've already said this. You can't use it. You can't make modern capacitors, laptops, cell phones, pagers. T'Challa, the Black Panther. I'm going to skip some of these because we only have about 15 minutes. The netter bass or basset is also used in the movie The Black Panther. According to Wakanda legend, the 5 tribes fought for control of Wakanda, a warrior shaman received a vision from Bass. Am I saying that right, Robbie?
It should be Bast, but
Bass.
you,
Okay.
but the Bastet, I I think that well, I'm gonna look it up as soon as we got the phone. I'm gonna look up the glyph, and when I see that, I'll be able to see it correctly because the Greeks have intruded so much that like almost every name we call them is actually a bastardization of the original African. Anpu is Anubis, which is that's Greek,
Mm-hmm.
and all that stuff. So I apologize for not being able to tell you exactly, but I believe every time I've heard it pronounced by the appropriate professor I had, they say boss.
Bass. Okay. So anyway, it's in the movie. Uh, in the mythology, when the soul of man reaches the afterlife, it is brought by the goddess Bas and Sekhmet in a mythical green valley where it can run freely and in peace for all eternity. And King T'Challa believed in this myth, while his son T'Chaka believed in this, while his son T'Challa did not until he met his father on the ancestral plane. And here is Bast or Basset as the Madonnan child.
Well, that is Sekhmet. That's the guy. Wait a minute. Hold on. The ears are different.
Okay,
Okay,
yeah, I'm going to say that it's Bast.
you're right. You're correct. You're
Yeah.
correct. You're correct. That's why I apologize.
Oh no, no. I'm not. You know what,
You
man?
know that.
You
You do know that.
you can let me know what's.
Very quickly, Sekhmet is the greater form of Bas, and Bas is the lesser form of Sekhmet. They're actually the same deity.
Yes.
Okay,
So
I'm sorry.
here's the real Black Panther.
Oh Lord, ain't that beautiful?
Yeah, yeah. Now, there's a movie called King Solomon's Mines. It was. I don't know if that date is right. It's either 1950 or 1951. Deborah Carr, student Stuart Granger, they're looking for King Solomon's mines. They're not looking in Israel, they're in Africa. And while they're on their way, they run into these brothers with these interesting hairstyles.
That hairstyle is called Amasuzu. That is spelled Amasuzu, and it is the ancestral form of the blue war crown worn by the pharaohs. And don't let nobody tell you no different. It is the same. Amasuzu.
Mm-hmm. So this is a stills shot from King Solomon's mine. This is a, a, a king coming to reclaim his throne. So this person that's seated down. He's seated on the throne now, and this person is challenging him. And this is actually what's also being shown in the Black Panther movie with Killmonger.
There is um there is a video that I posted from that because they took it down, but I snatched it before they put it down. And if I can find it, I'll send it to you. So I had a student who told me about the Amazuzu hairstyle because I was his instructor, and he was Hutu and not Tutsi. And every time I mentioned anything about Tutsi, he would get extremely nervous. In fact, he told me, "I'll tell you the name, but I don't want to get in no trouble with nobody." That's the level of fear he had. So anyway, I showed him the video, and the challenger is cursing at the other guy. And so just through body language, I told him what I thought he was saying, and he said, yeah, you literally are." And he's saying in their real language, they were saying some serious cursing. You like you dirty, you know what? You've taken my ancestral throne, blah blah blah. And he said, "Wow." He says, "How were you able to do that?" I was able to infer it through their body language. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's very interesting. So here is, the Watusi king as he returns. And this is in Sheikh Anta Diop's book, African Origins of Civilization. On the left is Pharaoh Ramesu, Ramesu, and a modern day Watusi. See there, this is what Professor Robert was explaining. It's not a helmet, and if you're able to look closely, there's little swirls of hair in it. So this is an African, a East African hairstyle that they still wear today.
Dr. Ben said people need to stop playing every civilization along the Nile during the time that the Nile was being developed contributed to what was later called Kemet or Egypt. And he said, so from the furthest regions, you get people like the Tutsis, you get Ugandans, you get the Twa, you get the Somalis, you get the Eritrean, you get the Ethiopian. He says everybody contributed. What Egypt or Kemet is a composite of all of those civilizations, and that's what made it rich. It was a composite culture.
Yes, it was a Pan-African culture. There were 42 tribes, and they were all brought together. Two major kingdoms, Upper and Lower. Continuing on, Watusi king reveals his royal markings. Scarification. I actually have some scarification that look like that. Only I had a heart surgery 7 years ago. Here, Killmonger, he reveals his royal marking. This scarification still takes place in Africa today. Keloiding is called. I inherited it from my mother. She had a keloid on her back. So the story also is shown again. There was another movie, The Cradle of the World, Digimon Hanzo, and Angelina Jolie. They went to the cradle of the world. They didn't go to Europe. They didn't go to these other places. What are you saying, Tony? The 2024 documentary soundtrack to Coup d'etat speaks of the Patrice Lumumba assassination. Thank you for that. I wasn't aware of that. So here, Lord Craft goes to meet the elders at the cradle of the world. And see again, this harkens back to, whether it's fictional, whether it's fringe or not, this harkens back to what Credo Muta was talking about. That in Africa, there's a cradle of the world that we probably still don't know where it is to this day. The Africans escort her to the cradle of civilization, which, by the way, is under Kilimanjaro. It's something about Kilimanjaro. Now, just moving on, the Black Panthers had this 10-point program. We want freedom. We want power to determine the destiny of our Black community. We want full employment of our people. We want an end to the robbery by the white man of our Black community. We want decent housing fit for shelter of human beings. We want education for our people that exposes the true nature of this decadent American society. We want education that teaches us our true history and our role in the present day society. We want all Black men to be exempt from military service. We want an immediate end to police brutality and murder of our people. We want freedom for all Black men held in federal, state, county, and city prisons and jails. We want all black people, when brought to trial, to be tried in a court by a jury of their peers or people from their black community as defined by the Constitution of the United States. We want land, bread, housing, education, clothing, and justice. And here we see very similar, as Brother Sebastian had pointed out. Here's T'Challa, and there's Huey.
Dr. Huey P. Newton. He had a PhD in sociology.
Yes. Black Panther 3 is under development, and Denzel Washington is involved in its creation. So that should be a really good film. Yes, he was Dr. Huey P. Newton.
Sorry about that. I just, and so was Nina Simone. She had a PhD.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Here, I got this from that website that had the study guide, the Black Panther study guide, and these were the heirs of T'Challa. And here they show T'Challa communicating with the ancestors. He didn't believe it until he was actually communicating with his father and the other Black Panthers, the ancestors. These are the main characters in the movie. Angela Bassett. I don't know all the names of the stars. They did an excellent job. And I found this somewhere. Wakanda Path.
You can get one on eBay. I use it.
Right?
It's a cover you can put over your U.S. passport. You slide it in.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So
here again, as we close, let's listen to the words of the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey. I have a vision of the future. This is what Keedy is seeing. I see before me a picture of a redeemed Africa with her dotted cities, with her beautiful civilization, with her millions of happy children going to and fro. Why should I lose hope? Why should I give up and take a back place in this age of progress? Remember that you are men, want to include women, that God created you lords of this creation. Lift yourselves up. Lift up yourselves, men. Take yourselves out of the mire and hit your hope to the stars. Yes, raise as high as the very stars themselves. Let no man pull you down. Let no man destroy your ambition, because man is but your companion, your equal. Man is your brother. He is not your Lord. He is not your sovereign master. And so today, you go to Botswana, you find buildings. You go to Nairobi, Kenya. If nobody told you this was Kenya, you wouldn't know. Abuja, Nigeria. Durban, South Africa. So, Black Panther phenomenon, and thank you all for sitting through that. And so let's talk. We have about 2 minutes, but I think we can go over today. I don't think
Mr. Imhotep, did you get the video that I sent you?
I did. I'm not able to show it right now.
Okay, what did you think about those points?
I received it as I was giving this presentation.
Okay.
So
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm not on my phone. Otherwise, I would put the link in there, but I don't have access to it on my computer. It's a video that's been going around on some of the chat groups in Ghana for the last couple of days or last week or so. And it's kind of I felt some of the points of the video when I saw the movie, but I love Black Panther, and it was it gives us all such pride. It was just the beauty of it, the costumes. But it talked about how Black Panther being one of the only Marvel heroes who is a spy that can't kill. That they didn't want to get rid of uh didn't go out and kill those who were hurting Africa. And also, what was the other point that it made? Just that I guess that as a black superhero, that if we kind of missed the opportunity to take that incredible wealth of vibranium and all of that incredible technology and all the wonderful things, and instead of going and wiping out the dollar and creating a dollar based on, vibranium, and helping all of these countries that are starving around it, it instead held it and kind of hoarded that wonderfulness and didn't completely change the world and get rid of the real evil in the world. In fact, ended up saving the white man and the CIA, which we know the CIA is never on our side, and ended up saving the CIA in the movie. So just another perspective, and talks about how sometimes our enemies are so crafty that they even find positive things to get us pumped and excited and still ingrain some of this. But remember your place, even in that.
Well, yeah. Keeping in mind we didn't write that story.
Right. And that's the real point, is we got to start writing our own stories and not getting so excited about their stories about us.
I don't know
Like,
if here at the beginning, I started out as showing myself as a 10-year-old reading comic books and finally finding a black hero. That was the significance in it for. Hey, is that Jabari? Jabari is there with with Damani. Roots, what's going
Yeah,
on,
it's
man?
brother Jamal. Hey, wonderful.
All
Hey,
right,
Mo, how are you?
good man.
You're looking good, man.
You are too.
Yeah, just getting over here. I heard most of the show, but already missed it. So can y'all
Okay,
start over, please?
okay,
No,
yeah.
just kidding.
Part two,
Continue, man.
about 5 minutes. Mama Zarita, you have your hand up. Go ahead. You're muted. I don't know if you realize.
I'm
You're,
so it's just simply fascinating. You can't tell me what my mama taught me. You can't tell me what my baba taught me. I know what my baba taught me. I know what my mama taught me. And I'm going to bring it in the love that they gave me. And that's what I heard tonight. It's just a paradigm shift from the madness, from, as you say, Minister, Babylon.
Babylon. Yes, indeed.
And so, I mean, just to hear when you were talking about Patrice Lumumba, my parents adored Patrice Lumumba. And whenever I hear the story, I go straight to Asar.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, imagine our children growing up hearing that. They talk a different language. The 7-year-old says, I want to go to Africa to see the baby elephant. He didn't say go to the zoo. He said, I want to go to Africa.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And imagine our babies coming up with that. It was just wonderful. I
Yeah,
share.
I said thank you, Mama Zarita. Anyone else?
I want to, yeah, I want to throw something in real quick.
Uh-huh.
Uh, Anthropology professor coming out. There are some words that we need to look up or study. One of them is called catastrophism. There's a lot of stuff in the world that we think we've recreated, but we have not. It was already here, or it's been here and it has to be rediscovered. Catastrophism is when a civilization falls into decline and then people around them have little bitty fragments of what it is. So, for example, things like the anti-Therica mechanism and the Baghdad battery, those things were around. Some people believe that the Baghdad battery is used to electroplate items to make them gold. The other one is another term is cargo cult. Anytime a civilization runs into another civilization and that civilization is sufficiently advanced, the civilization that is not as advanced perceives the behavior and the items as magical. There is nothing magical about a cell phone. There's nothing magical about a computer. There really is nothing magical about a tablet to us. But if we were to go back in time with those devices and they could function, and we use those in front of our great, 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 great grandparents, they would consider us sorcerers. Okay. So when we look at traditions in Africa like Ifa, Ifa is binary. It's zeros and ones, the same stuff that works off the computer. So you have an Ifa divination tray, and you're throwing shells out there, and they want to tell you that this has nothing to do with reality. You can do the same thing with a stick and a line, and you can come up with the with pi. So do not think that what has not been done, what is being done, has not been done before. The Shango bone and other things. And there's another book you might be interested in. It's called Africa Counts. And I believe the woman's name is, oh my God, just blocked on it. Africa Counts. It's a Russian woman. Her last name is Slavic. So there are a lot of stuff I hear. Oh yeah, and also African fractals. There is nothing new under the sun. We've been here a long time. We've gone through a lot of catastrophe. Google the term catastrophism. All right.
Robert, will you explain? There was a question in the chat. Would you explain what the Baghdad battery is?
Some years ago, when I say years, I'm talking about over 50, 60 years, in Iraq, they found a clay bowl that had in it a copper cylinder, and inside of it had another metal. And if you pour vinegar in it, you get an electrical charge. Now, remember, we weren't supposed to get electricity until the Europeans came up with it, the British and all of them. They were trying to harness lightning, but yet here these people are in Iran and Iraq doing things like that. Dr. Jacques, when I met him in 86, when I was a student, well, I wasn't a student at that time, I had just left Morehouse. But anyway, he said that Cambyses, the Persian, told his people to destroy every machine they could find. So now there have been some deliberate attempts, even in antiquity, to destroy the greatness of what Africa has. So, I'm an archaeologist, I'm a bioarchaeologist. And when I come up with things, when I see things or read about things like, oh my God, Göbekli Tepe, and it crosses over the standard rhythm of what things are, I can't even go to my own university and mention these things without them looking at me with a jaundiced eye, because there is a orthodoxism that wants you to believe that white people created everything every time, and nothing by brown people is is ever important. There are things in India. They have things in India that indicate that they had flight, that they could fly. Read the Mahabharata and these other books, and you'll be going, what in the hell is going on? See, they couldn't destroy all the knowledge, but what they do is dismiss the other knowledge as superstition. That's where that comes from.
All right.
The Baghdad battery is a clay device, and the Antikythera mechanism is a computer. And there is also a sculpture in Greece looking like a lady holding a computer tablet. Now, I'm a little skeptical about that one, but I am not surprised about the antikytherical mechanism. And if the Greeks, who were copyists of the Africans, had this, imagine what we had. Just imagine what we had. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that was good explanation. I'm glad that you were able to do it. I wish I had time to find so in the Temple of Dendera, there is a jed pillar that looks like a battery with a plug coming out of it going to a light bulb.
Oh yeah.
And so it's in the Temple of Dendera, and it's 6:40. We normally end at 6:30. Let's give ourselves 5 more minutes to continue. Also, by the way, should we make this a part 2? Should we continue on with the Black Panthers next week? And I'm talking about just dealing with the things that Huey and others did in organizing. That's what Mother Thornton was talking about. I see Zarita gave hearts on that. That's what. Okay, Sebastian gives a thumbs up. Tony, you think so too? All right. Okay, so all right, Minister. All right, Saraswati, Bandaway. Thank you all. Robert, I'm not acknowledging you. You know, you've said enough. I'm kidding, man. Anyway, and also in the chat for our reading pleasure and viewing pleasure, Kitty put in the program. He says, for anyone interested in my in-depth report on the roots of the current Democratic Republic of Congo conflict, colonial demons won't die. He puts the link in there for us to view. All right, and thank you, Mama Ra, for giving your permission, your thumbs up as well. All right, go ahead, Darnish. You put that Burkina Faso has electric vehicles for sale. Yes, I saw that. I saw that link. Yeah. So go ahead. You know what, Sebastian? Why don't you? I want to look for this picture. I have it in my pictures, and why don't you guys go on while I'm looking for this? Okay.
Real quick, you had mentioned about the Black Panther. BET had done the cartoon series.
Yes.
And that was through that Reginald Rudlin was behind those BET cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
And Ryan Coogler, the director of the Black Panther.
Yes.
If you didn't know, in January of 2022, he was in an Atlanta bank trying to withdraw $12,000 of his own money.
Lord have mercy. Yes.
And cops drew on him.
Yes.
Because there was a call from inside the bank that they thought that he was a robber.
Yes, they did. I'm so ashamed.
He had a bank account.
What year was that?
It was in 2022.
Wow.
Yes. January 7th, I believe, of 2022.
It was on
took him outside.
It was on Peachtree Street. I'm so ashamed. I apologize. We supposed to be Black Heaven.
Yeah.
Oh, that was in Atlanta?
Yes,
in Atlanta.
it
There was actually I guess he approached the teller and gave her a note that he wanted to withdraw $12,000 and asked her if that would be okay, and said that he wanted to be discreet because he didn't want her to come up to the counter and count it.
Right.
Count it in the back and just, because he's just trying to. And she took the note, and I guess, and
got nervous.
Called the cops, and they came in. Yeah, they came in from outside, brothers in uniform, and handcuffed him and took him out. And
naturally,
he had to prove who he was.
He said, "Please give it to me in smaller bills because I don't want to." Black people we can't do what white people do. I can't pull out $50 bills and buy a loaf of bread. They think they're trying to rob them because robbers do that sometimes. They'll go into a place, and if they know you can make change for a small sub amount of money with a big bill, they tell tellers that that's a scam. Now he was just trying to do his thing to get that movie done, and she lost it. And I think it was a sister. I hate to
It
tell you that.
was. It was.
Yeah, yeah. Oh Lord, that was a bad memory.
That is a shame.
Yeah.
No question. Okay, I found it, sisters and brothers. So go ahead, Damani. Before I show it, go ahead, Brother Damani.
I was wondering, can anybody tell us about what's going on with Paul Kagame in Rwanda? I thought he was a good guy years ago. He was doing wonderful things in Rwanda. Um, Anybody know what's going on with Rwanda attacking Congo? What's going on? Anybody know
The,
about that situation?
the short story. I'm sure Keedy is probably more versed at it than I am. But the short story is those boundaries. I don't know if you were here at the beginning, Brother Damani, but those boundaries that were done at the Berlin conference, they didn't take into account tribes. So some tribes are in the Congo. The same tribe, part of it is in Rwanda. That I know that's part of it. But the main thing is they want to keep the Congo in conflict, and that way they can steal their resources. Keedy, you had your hand up. Would you address that question
Yes.
before you get into what you were going to say?
2 points. I did a 1 hour, 40-minute report on this today. So it's there in the report. It's in the comments. Point number 2, Paul Kagame has been successful at turning Rwanda into, quote, the Singapore of Africa. And if anybody knows about this tiny nation of Singapore with no natural resources, which I believe became the 5th largest GDP per capita economy in the world, then Singapore is what we want all African countries to turn into. So Paul Kagame, according to all my knowledge and research, is one of the great heroes of modern African leadership, which is why the combined weight of Western media, especially led by the 8 powerful houses, do everything they can to separate us from this great African leader. Rwanda, the cleanest, safest country on the African continent.
All
The
right.
report is in the chat board. If anybody wants to watch it, let me know what you think.
All right. I'm certainly going to look at it. So here's the picture that I was looking for, sisters and brothers, and this is in the temple of Dendera. So here you have the Jed, and it's 2 Jeds, and there's like a plug. Let's see if there's a better picture. There's a plug coming out, and it's going into something that looks like a light bulb with a filament in it. Everybody see that?
Yeah. I'm with you on that one. The other one that I'm not gonna be with you on are the hieroglyphs that are above the uh the top of the temple that show composite hieroglyphs that do strangely look like modern devices.
Okay, okay. Since you mentioned that, hey, you guys still want to hang? Because I'll talk about that too. I actually uh, did a collection on that. Okay, because
Rabbit
that's in the temple of Abydos.
rabbit Afrocentrist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I think that there are some things that are legitimate, and I think there are some things that are just not.
Well, you know
And
what? I can't I can't find it readily, but let me just say this with respect to that. When you go into what I noticed, what I was shown when I went to Kemet, is on one side it will be a series of glyphs, and on the other side it will be the same series of glyphs. And in that particular case, when you go into Abydos, right when you go into the temple and you look up on the left, that's where the thing looks like a spaceship. But you look up on the right, and this is what it actually says. These are supposed to be saying, and what has happened is that these things have been carved over time and time again by succeeding generations, and so it has a distortion that today it appears to be a spaceship. So that's the short version. I wasn't prepared for this, otherwise I'd show you the picture, but it would take too long. Okay, it's 6:50. I'm glad you all could hang. Jabari, Damani, I love you guys. Mama Ra, what a pleasant surprise. Mama Engina, didn't hear from you, but I'm glad that you're here. Minister Bill, thank you for putting your things in the chat. Mama Rose, Minister Makalisi is here. Mama Zarita, Brother Keedy and Robert, thank you for your comments. Pretty Tony, it's always great to see you. Thank you, Sebastian, for sharing what you put with respect to the Panthers. Next time we meet on Black Knowledge Matters, we'll continue and we'll talk about more present day Black Panthers, Huey, Bobby, Eldridge, others, etc. All right? And if you have some things that you'd like to contribute, please either text me or email me so that I can include it. All right. Thank you, Don, for coming. All right. Live up, everyone. Thank you.
Live up.
All right. Live up. Live up.
Guidance and protection.
Guidance and protection.
Uncle Johnson and
Uncle Jobson.